Let's talk about number 6, and I really want you to think hard about this one as we talk about it because this is going to require you to do some real thinking. Number 6 in your playbook is you must know your real currency. Your real currency. Now, I just really don't like psychobabble. I don't like words that have been so overused that they lose their meaning. It really bugs me when I hear people talking about, I want to empower people. Come on. Empower has been used so much that it's lost its meaning. What do you even mean when you say that? Think about number 6. You must know your real currency. The only buzzword in that sentence might be currency. So let me explain what I mean by currency because I don't want it to be a buzzword. By currency, I mean that which you value. What do you really value? The most obvious form of currency is monetary, money. That's currency. Currency is money. But there are other forms of currency, right? Like getting praise. We just talked about accepting praise. A lot of people value getting praise and acknowledgement. They used to say about General Patton in the war, you give him a couple of headlines, he's good for another 100 miles. They used to say that about General George Patton. Give him a few headlines, he's good for another 100 miles. He'll press on, whatever the odds are. He liked that. It was of value to him. Some people love social currency. They love friends. They love to feel like they have a sense of belongingness to a group. We all feel better if we think we're part of something, we belong to something, that we're accepted by others. They say that validates us, which is another overused buzzword, which just means we're okay. That people that we care about accept us, which tells us we must be okay because these people that we admire or look up to want to hang out with us, so we must be okay. That's what validate means. It just means if they like me, I must be okay. There's spiritual currency. If you have spent time in prayer and meditation and reading the Bible or the Quran or whatever it is that is your connection, and you feel a sense of peace about that, and you feel a closer walk with your higher power, which I choose to call God, then you have spiritual currency. You feel like you have a connection. So there are lots of different forms of currency. Sometimes when I go home at the end of the day, I feel like we worked with some people today that I made some real headway with, and they were teaching tools. And so based on what we covered, I'm guessing that millions of people got a message today that was very important. So I'll go home and I'll be really tired, but it's what I call a good tired. I feel like I used my life, I used my platform today in a really positive, impactful way. That's currency for me. If I feel like I was a good steward of my platform and used it in a meaningful way, then that's currency for me. I feel good about that. I don't go home thinking, well, I made money today because I did this or that. It's a good tired. I feel like I've made a difference today. So that's a currency for me. And you need to ask yourself, what is your currency? And what is your real currency? Not what somebody else says should be your currency, because the worst thing in the world you can do is waste time. The key is to not waste time or effort, even on a short-term goal, if that goal cannot yield what you really want and need. It's just simply inefficient. I've known people that have pursued a specific career They've gone to school, gotten a degree, worked in that field, gotten to the top of their field, and been terribly unfulfilled because it was never what they wanted to do to begin with. It wasn't the currency that they wanted. Maybe they went to school and became an architect, and they got really good at being an architect. They got to the top of their field with some architectural firm. They got awards for it. But they never felt satisfied because they never valued being an architect. They wanted to be a musician. So they would work all week as an architect and then go play on the weekends as a musician and get more gratification, more satisfaction out of a day and a half as a musician than they got out of five and a half days a week as an architect. And you say, well, Dr. Phil, come on, get real. You got to pay the bills. Maybe that architect's salary paid for their home and their family and their kids. We can't all go chasing after the great American novel or playing guitar with Jimmy Buffett somewhere or whatever. Look, I get that. I get that there has to be a balance. But you have to make the list. You have to be willing to put yourself at least somewhere on the list. You have to at least acknowledge my real currency is this, and make sure it doesn't get crowded off the list. I worked with a woman one time in a life skills seminar that had spent her entire life up to the age of 45 working as an attorney. And she was good at it. She was a good attorney. But her passion, what she really wanted to do, was dance on Broadway. That was her dream as a little girl. It was her dream in junior high, high school, college. She wanted to dance on Broadway. I said, why did you not? She said, well, life got in the way. My dad was an attorney. My grandfather was an attorney. My mother was a paralegal. Our family were lawyers. That's just what we did. I was expected to be a lawyer. When I got through with school, I was expected to go join my father's law firm. And I just did what I was expected to do. And everything I do, I try to do well, so I was good at doing it. And now I'm 45 years old. Have you ever seen a 45-year-old dancer on Broadway? And I said, well, I don't know. I've never checked their IDs, but probably you're right. I don't know. It seems to be probably a young person's thing. And she said, well, so I guess I'm screwed. I said, well, maybe not. We worked on that and said, okay, what is it you love about this concept of dancing on Broadway? So well, I just love the creative parts of it, the expressive parts of it, the choreography, the costumes, just everything about it that it comes to the show. It's what I wanted all my life. I said, well, have you ever thought about teaching dance in your community theater? Well, no. Well, let's think about that. Jump ahead in the story 2 years. Being a very skilled dancer, she volunteered in the community arts program. She became the head choreographer, and the first thing that she worked on was the Nutcracker for the Christmas program. And when I saw her 2 years later, and she had 20 or 25 young girls that she was working into this wonderful program that they were putting on, you couldn't even get her feet on the ground. She was so fulfilled by finding a way to get that real currency. Most of these girls were from underprivileged homes, and her career as an attorney allowed her to buy every one of them the shoes they needed to dance, the tights they needed to dance, the leotards they needed to dance. She found a way to take what she had spent her life doing that she wasn't passionate about and use it to fuel what she was passionate about. And I asked her, I know this is a substitute. I know this isn't dancing on Broadway, but does it come close? She said, the first time I sat on the side of the stage and watched those 22 little girls run out onto that stage and do what they did, it was my opening night. So she found a way to get her currency, to get her dream, even at 45 years of age. How about you? Do you know what your real currency is? And are you passionately pursuing it, or are you telling yourself, it's too late? I wanted to be in the NBA, but I'm 45 and I'm 5'10 and I have bad knees. Well, do you have a love of basketball? Because I guarantee you there's a shortage of coaches. I guarantee you there are so many kids that need someone to help them. The number one thing that determines the outcome of a young, underprivileged child's life is whether or not they have an adult that puts their arm around their shoulders and says, hey, let me help you out here. I'm going to show you some things you need to do. Maybe you're 5'10 with a bad knee and you're 45 and you're never going to slam dunk on LeBron. But I'll tell you what, you may feel like you did when some kid that had nowhere to go, nowhere to play, and no one to hone his skills makes his first basket. But you can't know that if you don't know what your real currency is. And you've got to find that out. In order to do that, let me tell you something. You have to decide that you will not take no for an answer. And don't decide that there is only one way to skin a cat, because that's not true. Don't tell yourself no. Don't let somebody else tell you no. And don't decide there is only one way to get the currency you want. Don't decide that you've blown it, that it's too late, because it is never too late.